Hello, welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and with me in the studio is Miss Rajni Kalra. And over the course of the next 30 minutes, we'll bring you up to speed with everything that's happening around the world. Now, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed foreign ministers for the United Nations Security Council meeting on the ongoing Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip. The Guterres has told a high-level meeting on the West Asia tensions that Israel's occupation must end. The 15-member council has also endorsed a vision of two states living side by side within secure and recognized borders. Notably, the Palestinians want a state carved out of the West Bank, East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Iran has announced its support for Hamas as well as the Lebanese group Hezbollah and the Yemeni Houthis. Ahead of the 2024 U.S. presidential elections, the former U.S. President Donald Trump won the New Hampshire GOP primary on Tuesday. Now, the former South Carolina governor and Donald Trump's Republican rival Nikki Haley congratulated Trump and said that the fight is far from over. Trump addressed a gathering after his victory and hit out at Nikki Haley, saying that Nikki forgot that next week is Nevada. Trump also referred to the border issue, maintaining that the country is finished if Trump does not win the election. West Asia continues to remain tense over the rising conflict between the United States and the Iran-backed militias in Iraq. In the latest, the United States has carried out fresh strikes on the facilities of Iran-backed militants in response to attacks on its forces in Iraq and Syria. Now, according to the Pentagon, the American armed forces and their military allies have been attacked in over 150 instances in Iraq and Syria since last October. Iran's onslaught has come at a time when Washington, D.C. has openly backed and armed and funded Israel in its offensive on the Gaza Strip after the 7th of October. The United States has deported over 100 Guatemalan migrants on Tuesday. The Guatemalan authorities said a flight chartered by the United States government arrived at Guatemala City with the deported migrants. The deported migrants include 17 families and single adults. The latest incident is part of a larger trend of increased deportations involving migrants from countries like Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Colombia and Venezuela. American Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has made his first public appearance since his hospitalization. Earlier this month, Austin had to be rushed to the Walter Reed Hospital over complications from prostate cancer treatment. In his first sighting since then, Austin virtually has delivered opening remarks at a meeting of the Ukrainian Defense Contact Group. Now, Austin also reiterated his support for Ukraine and thanked the US's foreign allies for their security assistance. Austin is currently working from home since the 15th of January. And according to the Pentagon, the Defense Secretary will have full access to secure communications while he works remotely. After a long wait, Turkey's parliament has approved Sweden's NATO membership bid. The Turkish lawmakers ratified Sweden's accession protocol by 287 votes to 55 votes. And this ends the 20-month-long delay that had frustrated Turkey's Western allies. The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is expected to sign the bill into law in the coming days. that Turkey had been stalling Sweden's membership for over a year. Now, it had accused the Nordic country of being too lenient towards certain militia groups that Ankara considers a security threat. South Korean Joint Chief of Staff has said that the North Koreans fired multiple cruise missiles towards the sea off its west coast today. Issuing a statement, South Korea said that the missiles were fired at 7 a.m. local time, and Pyongyang's act is being analyzed by the South Korean and American intelligence. The South Korean JCS, that is the Joint Chief of Staff, said that North Korea's further activities are being monitored. After the missile launch, tensions have escalated on the Korean peninsula, following the intensifying military maneuvers by the South Korean and the US militaries in response to weapons testing. Now, earlier this month, Pyongyang said that it tested a solid-fuel hypersonic missile, a move that was condemned by the United States, South Korea and Japan. The World Health Organization has raised some serious concerns over record high cases of measles in Europe last year. The WHO has called for efforts to ramp up vaccination across the continent. Now, in the wake of the region witnessing over 30,000 cases of measles in 2023, cases were reported in 40 of the 53 nations that fall under WHO's Europe region, which also includes, interestingly, places such as Russia and Central Asia. The health officials in the United Kingdom have urged millions of parents to book their children in for their missed measles, mumps and rubella shots. Over 1,600 suspected measles cases have been reported in England and Wales. The farmers in France have staged massive protests across the nation and have urged the government to ease the drive for lower consumer prices and to reduce environmental regulations. The protests have entered into the second week, and the unrest has come as the first major challenge for the new Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal. On the 22nd of January, after union officials met Prime Minister Attal, new convoys of tractors set out in the night to block roads across the country and protested against what they say are unfair prices and taxes, as well as excessive green regulation. The Colombian authorities battled forest fires on a hill located in Bogota on Tuesday as smoke shrouded the city. The fires broke out in the hills located in the east of the capital city. Firefighting teams from the armed forces, the national police and civil defense came together to douse the flames on the ground and from the air with helicopters. Now, according to the city's mayor, the fire had been confined to an area of about 2.5 hectares. The natural topography of the hills have complicated the work of the teams fighting the flames. The Venezuelan opposition candidate Maria Corina Machado has announced an alliance with political parties and civil society organizations to organize a campaign in order to challenge President Nicolas Maduro. Machado, in fact, has called on the authorities to reveal the exact date of the presidential elections as an agreement between the opposition and Maduro's government signed in Barbados in 2023, which said that elections will take place in the second half of the year. The Machado, who is currently barred from holding public office by Venezuela's Comptroller General, has called the ban as unfair. Machado has appealed in the Supreme Court, and it is yet to decide on this matter. As the shelling and strikes continue between Russia and Ukraine, Ukrainian state emergency services have released the video showing an 8-year-old girl being rescued, trapped under the rubble following a strike in the city of Kharkiv. Now, the Ukrainian officials have said that 8 people have died in an attack on a residential building in which 60 people were reportedly injured. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that missile strikes have been launched throughout the country by the Russian armed forces, killing 18 people and injuring over 130 others. It's been 2 days since the landslide took place and the death toll continues to rise in southwest China's Jiaotong city. 31 people have died and over 900 residents are affected. According to the state media, the disaster management authorities have managed to rescue and evacuate 500 people. And over 1,000 search and rescue personnel have been mobilized as they continue to battle with freezing temperatures to locate dozens of missing people. The Yunnan province that is grappling with the biting cold temperatures is just one of the several provinces in China's southern region that is facing some extreme cold weather conditions. The remote mountainous region remains prone to such calamities. China and the tiny Pacific island nation Nauru have re-established diplomatic relations after Nauru unexpectedly severed its ties with Taiwan. The two countries held a signing ceremony in Beijing, as reported by state media. And this is being seen as a major coup for China and also a huge blow for Taiwan after the recently held elections, as Nauru announced that it will no longer recognize Taiwan as a separate nation, but rather as an inalienable part of China's territory. The 6 people were killed and 14 others were said to be injured in a gas explosion caused by a vehicle crash in Mongolia. And according to the preliminary results, 3 people died in the fire, as reported by the Mongolian National Emergency Management Agency. Out of 6, 3 firefighters were killed and 14 sent for medical treatment. India's northern region is in the grip of a biting cold weather, affecting daily life and commute in major cities in the national capital, New Delhi. The minimum temperatures touched 11 degrees Celsius. New Delhi is facing major flight disruptions due to the dense fog and cold weather conditions. The 22 international departures and 20 international arrivals are delayed, along with delays in 31 domestic arrivals and 46 domestic departures. For the next 4 days, the Indian Meteorological Department has issued a red alert for the North Indian states. Amazon has been fined $34 million in France for excessive worker surveillance. The Amazon France Logistics that oversees Amazon's warehouses recorded workers' data through handheld scanners. The French data protection agency CNIL found Amazon tracked activity so precisely that it led to workers having to justify every single break. The data protection agency even deemed Amazon's activity as illegal and questioned why Amazon needed to keep the workers' data for 31 days. The fine comes after France's data protection agency opened its inquiry in 2019 following media articles and complaints by several thousand workers who were affected by the system. Continuing with the layoff trend in the tech industry is Riot Games, which is now about to cut 11% of its staff, affecting 530 jobs. A statement issued to the staff mentioned that the layoffs were necessary and were meant to create focus and to move the company towards a sustainable future. The developer of League of Legends, Riot Games, has said that it has expanded its investments across too many areas and is now cutting back its focus on the games. The company has admitted to lacking a sharp focus due to investments not meeting expectations. Despite layoffs, Riot Games has pledged 6 months of minimum salary, cash bonuses and also benefits to its staff that it is laying off. Now, according to a new report, 7 out of 10 CEOs worldwide are gearing to invest in generative artificial intelligence this year. Netcore Cloud, a global software-as-a-service company, identified generative AI as a top investment priority with CEOs. The business leaders globally are anticipating significant returns within 3 to 5 years after investing in AI tools. The report has also highlighted consumer preferences, revealing a strong inclination towards short-form video content and also instant transactions. The report has mentioned that videos hold immense influence, with 90% of consumers relying on them for product decisions. The Hong Kong shares of Alibaba Group have surged this morning after tracking a bounce in their US counterparts. The reports showed co-founders Jack Ma and Joe Tsai were acquiring shares in the e-commerce giant, and Alibaba's Hong Kong shares jumped up by 5.5% and were the top performers on the Hang Seng Index. The gains also saw Alibaba's Hong Kong shares rebound from a 15-month low. The dollar hovered near a 6-week high against major peers on Wednesday as investors cemented expectations that the Federal Reserve will be in no rush to cut interest rates in the face of a resilient US economy. The Japanese yen, though, has ticked higher as expectations have risen for a stimulus exit as soon as March, following some hawkish comments from the Bank of Japan on Tuesday. The US dollar index, which tracks the currency against 6 rivals, including the euro and yen, was flat after rising to the highest levels since the 13th of December. Now, the Philippine government has said that inflation remains an urgent concern and that it will act to keep it at bay. A 7-member policy-making monetary board will meet for the first time this year on the 15th of February to review the direction of policy rates. Headline inflation in December returned to target at 3.9%, but average inflation for 2023 stood at about 6%, well above the central bank's 2% to 4% target. So the central bank kept its benchmark rate steady at about 6.5% in the final 2 meetings of the last year, after hiking rates by a total of 450 basis points since May 2022 to rein in inflation. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.